Welcome to Sunday School. Constance and I have been going through our son's book collection. Okay, when he moved to the Far East, we took over custodianship of his considerable library, and we've moved it around, and we've actually moved it up here to Sacramento. It's not a huge library, but it's a very interesting one, including a lot of the things that he was interested in growing up, and including classics of literature and things like that. Very interesting, well-read young man, and a lot of sort of esoteric Japanese stuff, and he was a DJ. He still is a DJ, as a matter of fact, I think, and a lot of Japanese underground music and things like that. He had a radio show in California. But anyway, he also grew up in the DuQuette family, and the DuQuette family, since the mid 70s, had a very unusual collection of friends, and many of whom were published authors and magicians and things like that. And they inscribed books to him, Robert Anton Wilson and Christopher Hyatt and other folks. And he has asked us to, as much as possible, try to find good homes for much of his material, and hopefully in a way to gather up some funds to help his own son go to college, which is just coming right up here in just a year or so. So anyway, we've got boxes and boxes of his books that we've sort of have a open house today. We won't call it an open house, but we've put the word out for people who are interested in this stuff. And so we've been going through his stuff, and I found a couple interesting things I want to share with you today. Two books that are just in paperback editions. As books go, you can go to, but two very interesting ones. I've got this Necronomicon here. Okay, you can buy this edition. This is I think the first edition. Look how the paper is getting all old and stuff like that. And it's just a Necronomicon. But I don't know. I don't want to spoil anybody's idea or personal mythology, but the Necronomicon, as we know it, was the work of a committee of mostly three very well read magicians back in the 70s, and we happen to know at least one of those individuals quite well. And so Jean-Paul had the equivalent of a signed edition of an inscribed edition of the Necronomicon, and included in it were little an envelope of things. signed by others, and a strange sort of talisman and other. It's very, very, very interesting, and in a way, it's priceless. Okay. But another one was also Lovecraft related, and it's a relatively modern book here, published by the good folks at Brotherhood of Life Publishing, who in Albuquerque back in 1995 approached me to read it, and if I thought it was interesting, asked me to write an introduction to it. And it's about Lovecraft too. Let's see here. This is from not my introduction, but W.H. Mueller, who's an alchemist. In the year 1890, New England saw the birth of an exceptional man, Howard Phillips Lovecraft. In this century, he became famous as one of the most gifted writers of the macabre, often celebrated as the literary heir to Edgar Allan Poe or Jules Verne. During his lifetime, however, just a few of his works were published, and only after his death in 1937 did he begin to gain more and more publicity inside and outside the United States. Today, H.P. Lovecraft is read in almost every language, and there is a great quantity of books on his works and life as well. But there is more than that has been discussed so far. There is the unknown Lovecraft, the hidden dimension in his work that has been there untouched since his death almost 60 years ago. He was more than just an exceptionally gifted writer of the macabre. He was an alchemist, and his work, mostly encoded to a masterly degree, center around the mystical quest, the sacred journey to the pole. Polaria, the gift of the white stone. Now, this book, when it was new, was only $14, $14.95, $15 book. And it's very well printed. It's a beautiful edition. But it didn't sell very well. And it went out of print before a second edition could be printed, at least as far as I know. But it is an esoteric jewel that used copies on Amazon start at $400, and new or mint condition ones they ask as much as $1,400 for it. It's a rare book, and I'm going to read you the introduction to it, my introduction to it. The Starry Wisdom. A few words on Polaria, the gift of the white stone, by Lon Milo DuQuette. The epigram. As a member of the body of God, I hereby bind myself on behalf of the whole universe that I will interpret every phenomenon as a particular dealing of God with my soul. The above declaration is known as the Oath of the Abyss. Whosoever utters it with full magical intention invokes a terrible curse upon themselves, for they are either hopelessly deluded in committing an act of supreme spiritual presumption, or they have balanced and perfected all aspects of what most of us consider to be the self, and are now prepared to take the last irrevocable step toward becoming more than human. In both cases, the world will presume they have gone mad. Modern Kabbalists constantly refer to the tree of life, a linear schematic of 10 emanations and 22 paths upon which the universal mechanics of energy and consciousness are projected. In one respect, it is a very unsatisfactory diagram, for it attempts to dimensionalize the transdimensional. Nevertheless, if its shortcomings are kept in mind, it provides us a vocabulary with which we can weigh complex abstractions and attempt to communicate them with others. It also provides a very convenient filing cabinet which the spiritual concepts and images of all religions, mythologies, and cultures can be correlated and stored. All 10 Sephiroth, or emanations of the tree, are really only aspects or facets of the top, the first Sephirah, Kether, which represents the totality of existence, the supreme monad. But even the concept of one is a blemish upon the sublime perfection of the pre-existent zero. If one is to exist and be conscious of its oneness, it must reflect itself like a yogi in meditation who reaches to the core of being and exclaims, "That's what I am." The mere act of reflection creates two. One is now conscious of itself and its reflection. The knowledge that there is a difference between one and two immediately creates three. This trinity by itself is still an abstraction and exists only in potentiality. Nevertheless, the cosmic pattern established by one becoming three becomes the archetypal germ that sets into motion a chain reaction that animates the entire creation scenario, the process of consciousness, light, spirit, descending into matter. The phenomenal universe manifests through a process of degeneration of the next 7 Sephiroth. The Trinity unit 456 is created by the reflection of the 1-2-3 unit, and the same process that created 3 from 1, 2 creates the Trinity unit of 7, 8, and 9. 10, the world of matter, is rock bottom and dangles from the tree of life like an afterthought of creation, or where it becomes manifest. 10, the world of matter, the great work of the initiate is to reverse this process and systematically climb the tree, overcoming imbalances and imperfections in his or her own being, thereby achieving progressively exalted states of consciousness. The entire journey is a series of ordeals, but the most significant crisis comes when the candidate reaches a level of consciousness that is so high that in order to proceed further requires the abandonment of all the old machinery of perception. It means quite literally the annihilation of everything the individual has heretofore believed to be the components of personality and self. This crisis point comes when the candidate attempts to move from the 4th Sephirah, the highest point of the actual, to the 3rd Sephirah of the supernal triad, the world of the ideal. On the tree of life, there is no path leading from 4 to 3. An abyss of inscrutable mystery yawns before the candidate, who must rely solely upon the attraction of the 3 and the initiatory momentum they have established to hurl them through the looking glass of the abyss. No one whose point of perception is below the abyss is equipped to understand the nature of reality above the abyss. It is said that below the abyss, division is the result of contradiction. Above the abyss, contradiction is unity. For those who are ready to endure the concentrated anxiety of interpreting every phenomenon as a particular dealing of God with their souls, the oath of the abyss triggers an initiatory crisis in which the aspirant is required to draw upon all the knowledge and skills he or she has accumulated up to that point on the initiatory journey. In other words, the images and data we absorb in our quest for illumination are the same images and data illumination will ultimately use to illuminate us. The more we know, the more we will be required to know in order to know. I'm not qualified to judge the sanity or the initiatory level of the magical entity who writes as W.H. Mueller. However, it is obvious he knows a great deal. In his remarkable work, Polaria, The Gift of the White Stone, it is also clear that he has reached a landmark level of consciousness wherein a great secret has made itself known. A secret so vast and universal that for him it unlocks the mysteries of all lesser secrets. Naturally, such a mystery must reveal itself in a language understandable to the seer. If Mr. Mueller were a dancer, perhaps his language would be the movement and his prophet Nijinsky. If he were a musician, he might have gained enlightenment while listening to Wagner, and he might attempt to explain his revelation in pitch or tone or rhythm. Although I have never met Mr. Mueller and know nothing of the details of his life, it is clear to me that he has a love of learning. He is certainly a serious student of history, mysticism, and world religion, and has broad knowledge of mythology and esoteric sciences of all ages and countries. It is here he is diligently searched, perhaps not for the answers, but for the proper question. It should be obvious to all who read Polaria that when the great answer came to Mr. Mueller, it was delivered through the medium and the words and the images of H.P. Lovecraft. Many will be quick to condemn a revelation whose prophet was a reclusive writer of popular horror fiction. They will dismiss the polar wisdom because it does not pander to the images and nomenclature of their own spiritual prejudices. Mueller has not written to proselytize to such as these, nor indeed to anyone. Polaria is a wall-to-wall, self-referential discharge of thought, a personal Kabbalah expressed in a chain reaction of numbers, symbols, sounds, colors, images, angels, devils, and gods, forming a Mobius strip of tightly woven bits of information. It cannot be read and analyzed like a standard book. It must be listened to, like music. Listen with respect, for most assuredly, after you've heard it, your personal Kabbalah will be forever changed. Lon Milo DuQuette, Newport Beach. So that's that. I don't know what our day is going to be like today, or if indeed we succeeded all in finding good homes for this this library of material, but that's what we're going to do on this formerly rainy Sunday afternoon. So until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love and do well.